familiar with technology as men, because the usual perception is that women technology, don't put them anywhere near technology. So this I'm proving it, unfortunately. But so this on this there's a whole lot of discriminating norms. What sort of norms could there be which are oppressive to women? You know that fully well mobility of women is so much restricted. Okay? Not only that because the household work is there, but because of the vulnerability to violence if you're out late in the night. So you know there's a lot of discrimination which is built up because the woman has to be what should I say, to be the mother in a household and a wife in a household. She has to be pure. Okay, there can be there's no way in which we can accept a woman who may have had premarital relations with any man. So we have to keep the woman safe in the house, that she is actually just the single person belonging to a certain household. So you said there are so many norms and practices which are built up upon this division of work between men and women. And even if she does paid work, now I'm sure all of you after studying here, you'll be wanting to go and do some work. Even if she does paid work outside the house, there's a lot of housework she still has to do. She has to go back. Those of us who can afford to have domestic workers can reduce our household burden to some extent. Those who cannot have to do what? They have to get up early in the morning, do the cooking, look after the children, send them to school, then go for work, then come back and restart the cycle all over again. So the point is that this is still going on. And that is what I mean by the cultural change. Unless men and women start thinking, and now of course we have the sexual minorities, the individuals with different sexual orientation, gender orientations, all of these, we have to realize that some of the stereotypes that have been given to us are now gone. We cannot stick to those stereotypes. The time has come for us to change. It is very important for us to learn. So even if she works outside the home, she has to come back, as I said. And what also, there's another implication. If I am worried about catching my bus at 5 o'clock so that I can reach home and start my household work all over again, I will be less committed. That is how I will be considered. That look, she's already looking at her watch at 4:30, because she has to go. So, these are the sorts of things which then get ascribed to women. They are not committed to their work, they are only thinking about their household, they have no time for politics, no time for technology. All these sorts of things get ascribed to the women. And they are not safe late in the evening. So we should be very careful to keep them inside their homes. You heard about that famous play which came out by V.T. Bhattacharya, Adkalail Arainateka. I think the classic way of describing the position of even upper caste women, forget about the lower caste women. So this puts the women in a dependent position. Supposing the society perceives her like that, even in a household where the man is unemployed and the woman is actually bringing the income, it's not recognized as a woman's household. Only if the man is not there, we'll say female-headed. Otherwise, it's a male-headed, even if the man is unemployed. Which happens in many of the families, that the man may not be working, the women do any type of work for which they get any low income, but they do it because of their family, and therefore, they are the ones sustaining the household, but we still consider that household as a male-headed household. And the man can beat her if he wants. Also, that can also happen, even if the woman is an educated working woman. So these are the sort of norms which have been built up on this sort of division of labor, what we call the social division of labor in society. So this high unequal sharing of household work is not considered. You were saying that their work is not counted in the national income. Why does it not get counted? Because it doesn't enter the national income. It doesn't enter the system of national accounts. The unpaid household care and care work does not enter, because that's how economics is defined. It refers only to what is paid and is transacted in the market. So women's unpaid household work does not get recognized. And what is the assumption? The assumption, what is macroeconomic? You are familiar with macroeconomic policies, fiscal policy, monetary policy, employment, export, import, trade policy, all these are macro policies. Now, what does macroeconomic policy assume? That women's time in household work is infinitely elastic. And that is how the women are actually themselves thinking of themselves. So if you say the public employment now, we are retrenching 1,000 workers in a public sector company, and all those 1,000 workers are out of work, what will the women do? They will not abandon their households. No? They will then go for Narega work, or they may go for some self-help group work, where they get some income, 200, 300, 400 rupees. If they get, they will do that, so that they earn something to sustain their families. So their time is assumed to be infinitely elastic. That's the way the macroeconomic policy works. And so whatever changes occur in the macroeconomic, and you know that after globalization, liberalization, a lot of changes have come in the macroeconomic policies. Which is, for instance, the reduction in healthcare, educational systems. All this has been happening because of the privatization, which has put a price on everything. So how do poor households manage? They then the women try to do as much as they can at home, so that they don't have to purchase from the market. So there is a lot of, this is a sort of assumption which is made in macroeconomic development policy, and therefore it is very interesting. If you look at our macroeconomics now, and you think back of the earlier period, for instance, the period of the late 19th century, a lot of social transformation was occurring. The Industrial Revolution was going on, Marxism, Leninism, Engels, Bebel, and they were talking about the woman question. There was a very interesting discussion on the woman question, what we call gender issues now. They were talking about the woman question. Why did they talk about that? Can anyone tell me, why are we saying women and development? Why are we not saying men and development? Can anyone any answer? Can be stupid, I say. Doesn't matter. But venture something. Well, what was the woman question? What is the gender issue according to you? I just explained to you the division of roles. Isn't it? So what is the woman question? Supposing a woman has been ascribed this responsibility of looking after the household and bearing children, what is it in the society? What are we looking for? When we talk about women, what are we saying? We are saying, what is the position of women in our social organism? That is what the socialists were discussing at that time. So, because they wanted to include women as equal partners in the development process, they knew that the women had a lot to contribute. Okay? So, what is the position of a woman in our social organism? How can she best develop her powers and abilities in order to become a useful member of human society, endowed with equal rights and serving society with the best of her abilities? Why was this question being raised? Because they knew that there is this major constraint on women because of the household and care work. And Engels had said, till you liberate the women from this, there will be no emancipation for women. He said that. But we know that women are also vulnerable as women. So even if you liberate them from household work, there is still inequality which exists in society. So now, you see, so this was being discussed by the socialists because they were looking at women as part of the whole transformation, what they call the social transformation policy. But what happened in the non-socialist countries? Nobody discussed women at all. We discussed development. And we said development will trickle down to everybody. It's not going to distinguish between men and women, girls and boys, transgender, nothing. Development means development for all, so it will trickle down to everybody. Nobody thought of taking up the issue of women's household work and care work and the need for public investment in these activities. Because otherwise, how do women get out of the household, or how do women get out of the kitchen to do work in public spaces? You understand? So that one thing was, of course, now look, I get stuck. Somebody please come here. I don't know what the way I push it. I just want to go up a little bit now. Okay, this is the way I think. This is the way I think. Okay. Yeah. So the socialist question in the 1870s was thoroughly discussed, and Weber made it very clear that women are an integral part of socialist policy. Now, surprisingly, and it was really interesting when I came across this, in pre-independence India, we know that all these luminaries, Sarojini Naidu, Vijayalakshmi Pandit, Durgabai Deshmukh, so many people were there in the nationalist movement. They were not the ones to think that women have to sit in the kitchen. like Babel, in that time, there were a big discussion, in the 1870s. Some people were saying, there is no women question. Their role is in the household. What are you bothered about? We don't have to worry about anything. Let them be in the house. Let them deliver children. Let them look after the children. Let them look after the household. That is their natural calling. It was called the natural calling. But the Marxists were arguing, no, that is not correct. They have their own abilities, their own confidence, their own ways of, their own rights as women, and that's what we must respect. Now, a similar thing happened in pre-independence India. In 35, there was a National Planning Committee which was formed by the Congress Socialist Party, I think, or Communist Party, I don't know what it was called at that time. And because of the war came in between, they had what is called the National Planning Committee, and they set up 34 or 44, I don't remember, subcommittees on different areas, like we do at the start of our 5-year plans. We have all these working groups on different sectors, and they will then tell us what is happening in that sector and what we need to go to move forward in that sector. And there was a subcommittee on women. In this National Planning Committee, there was a subcommittee on women, which reported in 45, but I think it came out in 47 because of the war in between. And it was called the role of women in a planned economy. That is what it's called. Chairperson was our Lakshmi Bai Rajwade. And as I said, this contained luminaries like Sarojini Naidu and all these, I had it with me somewhere here, the constitution. There was the chairperson was Lakshmi Bai Rajwade, and there was Indira Bai Bhagwat, there was Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, Rameshwari Nehru, there was Durga Bai Deshmukh, Sarojini Naidu. I mean, there was a whole lot of these women who had been very active in the nationalist movement. So, then, if you look at the terms of reference of that committee, it's really so heartening that there was a time when actually women were being pulled into the planned process. But somehow, after independence, that completely got. Because after independence, we went in for a very different type of macroeconomic policies, which completely left out the role of women in the household. So if you look at the terms of reference of the subcommittee, it states, this report considers the entire structure of planned economy with women as the focus. Okay, all structure, the whole structure, that means every sector in the economy, they will look at it from the point of view of women. What are they doing? What should they be doing in that sector? All this is going to be looked at. What we call now looking at a sector through the gender lens. Okay? So, this sort of a thing that women are not only confined to the women and child development, but they have a role in every sector, actually came to us nationally at the 11th plan time. The 11th plan, they said we have to look at the women not only in the women and child development, but because there is evidence that women are there in every agriculture, small scale industries, traditional industries, rural development, wherever you look, there are women there. So we can't just think of women confined to as welfare agents, people who get benefits and some sort of doles in the women and child development, but we have to look at them across all departments. So this working committee, the subcommittee had said that they will review every field in which women operate or should operate to contribute their share of the nation's wealth and well-being of the people. And listen, this last sentence is very interesting to me. The cultural and spiritual position of women and its impact on nation's life and worth cannot be ignored. Have we ever said that anywhere in our documents? Plan or non-plan? Anything. We have never said that. Now this is something which we realize strongly in the context of the Sabarimala issue. That, as I said, we sort of woke up. I mean, each time, of course, we were putting money. We were putting money in the budget for gender awareness, what we call. Let's make Kerala a gender conscious society by teaching right from the school itself, what is gender, what is the issue, how both are, equal partners in development. All that we used to, in each plan we used to keep that. After gender budgeting started in Kerala. But when the Sabarimala came, we found that, okay, that is not enough. Then comes the wall. Then comes the Madil. That gave such hope. Look, people came out in such large numbers, whatever the critics may say, no, they were forced to come, or they were threatened that something will happen, or they were given money to come, whatever it is, 50 lakh women cannot come out in a 620-kilometer long wall without some, feeling of solidarity. So, when this Sabrimala thing came, we thought we need to strengthen our gender awareness program. That became very clear. And it did not appear comprehensive enough. And then the Vanita Madal on a pan-Kerala scale, which shook up the people, and our effort now is to sustain the momentum. That is the effort now, how to sustain the momentum. Now, how did we bring in women's issues into macroeconomic development? Through what is called a gender budget. Budget, we know, is part of fiscal policy, macroeconomic policy. So, a lot of work was going on among the women's movement, among the women's groups, that whatever is happening, the situation doesn't seem to be improving. In 74, the Committee on the Status of Women in India, that came out, and they found they get alarming results. The participation rate is declining of women. Okay, sex ratio is declining. Poverty is growing among women. And these things came out again from a committee which had people like Bina Majumdar. I don't remember the sociologist who was there. Who was the sociologist, Siddik? A very well-known woman sociologist, Dubey. All these people, the committee is a very well-known document. If anyone wants to work on women, there is one committee report you all should read, plus of course the Seva report of Ila Bhats, Shram Shakti. These are things that you all have to read to know about the women's issues and the women's problems. It was not that people were not tackling that, but I'm saying that the problem was so enormous that we are still tackling with how to get out of this cultural bind that creates the barriers for women, So we have been attempting to mainstream gender, what is called mainstreaming gender. That is, put every sector through a gender lens. If it is agriculture, we know that they are farmers, we know that they are agricultural laborers. Can we have separate schemes for women? Extension work, for instance, sometimes does not touch the women farmers at all, because they may be called to some organization for classes which they cannot go to. So the point is, unless you recognize women's unpaid household and care work and the constraints it poses on their participation in the paid economy, you will not be able to sort out the problem of their participation. So that is why we have to keep that in mind. That is why I say development is not gender neutral. Whenever you make a budget and you are having something on employment, for instance, whether it's ITIs, and you say, okay, 30% of ITI inmates will be women. But when you go and see the ITI, there are very few girls. So I asked, what is happening? So they said, we don't know. So I said, give them noon meals. I just said, there was another person with me. He said, why don't you try giving noon meals to them? Because maybe in the early morning, they may not be able to pack up any lunch. It worked. As I'm saying that, people who realize that there is this issue, and in the government now slowly we're trying to impress upon the department officials how important it is to keep these things in mind. And to say that, okay, when we have a project, Startup Mission has now a project, 70 crores they have got. 10% is supposed to be for women startups. I think the university has some incubation or something like that in your university here.
Yes.
So you have to, if women are not coming, you ask the question, why are they not coming? Because they do MA and masters in general arts and sciences, 68% are women. Where do they go? After that, where do they go? Either they get married and then they have to sit at home, or some of the more courageous and the brave ones and the more determined ones do come and work. And that is very important. They need to be free economically. That economic empowerment is very essential. Some people say, we are very happy at home. My husband is earning so much, why should I go for work? Everything is good if the marriage is going on happily. But suppose something happens. I would pray nothing should happen. I don't pray, sorry. I would wish nothing will happen. But suppose something happens, the woman is left completely helpless. She doesn't even know how to interact with any official, for instance, to get even her due rights, to go to the court. Even things like that she does not know. So that is what the whole thing is about. That you have to, visualize women's work and their contribution. and then see how we can make special programs to be able to move them up in the ladder of whether it's work, whether it's social thinking. They should really be coming up in society to be able to display their abilities and to show how much they can contribute to society. Now, of course, as we know, girls are coming out in different, very non-stereotype of activities. There'll be a pilot you think of, they are running the metro. All the loco pilots are women or transgenders also. So, or they may be doing bus driving, another. So, if more and more girls come out to work, the society will definitely take a change. Even in the planning board, we were having a discussion the other day, and the men said, why do you say that men don't work at home? I said, that's what we find, that men don't usually do the household work. The woman has to do it. Then they said, if women are also working, at some point of time it becomes compulsory. Because men will see that, okay, the household cannot run if the woman has to be so harassed the whole day. So they will also start helping. So one way, of course, is to give employment to women. But the other reason is that there should be a redistributive, just agenda. Why should it be, even if the woman is not working, for instance, even if the woman is not working, why should she alone do all that very tedious and laborious household work? Why can't men also participate in it? So that is what the UN CEDAW is called, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. CEDAW it's called. That, and the SDG Goal 5 has a very clear para on how we should recognize, reduce, redistribute household and unpaid care work for women so that men participate. There's a just agenda should be there for redistribution. So in our attempt at gender responsive, we call it gender responsive budgeting. That's what it's called. You're responding to the gender issue and then you are preparing the budget. Recognizes the economic significance. The way we are doing it in Kerala, we are taking a more expansive view of women. Meaning we know that they have these other duties also. So it recognizes the economic significance of women's unpaid work in the household, which tends to be neglected in macroeconomic development policy. Foregrounding women's unpaid work and the constraints it poses to women's participation in paid work in public spaces is therefore central to the debate on rethinking macroeconomic frameworks from a gender perspective. And gender responsive budgeting, as I said, is an entry point into macroeconomic policy. Gender budgeting in Kerala has, through a process of learning, we started in the 11th plan. I don't know how many of you remember that it was a political commitment. The government stated, that is the finance minister, in his interim budget, what is it called? The budget which comes after the one government falls and the other, it's not the interim. It was in 16, there's a word for it. The budget which came in 16 June or July, because the budget had been made by the previous UDF, but when the LDF came to power in May 16, I think, they had another budget. In that budget, it was announced that we are going to be doing gender budgeting in Kerala. So it was a political commitment. That's what I'm saying, it has to become a part of political policy. So it has, through a process of learning, it's taken a much more expansive view on women's lives and roles they play, not only in terms of their potential as paid workers, but more importantly through their invisibilized, unpaid work in social reproduction and their inability very often to make choices as individuals. We know that. When we are making a choice, we think of our children, we think of our husband also. Okay? We very rarely that we make a choice which is benefiting only us, unless there is enough resources to do that. So sometimes they are not able to make the choices which really benefit them because they have to think of their household.